Plan.
1 second.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is the mayor's agenda, official council agenda, Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, council chambers, 7 p.m. Would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Hark,
Here.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Here.
Welch,
Here.
Beach,
Here.
McCoy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
Here.
Councilmember Cogdell.
Okay, there being a quorum, I would call this meeting to order. Councilperson Cogdell, would you do the invocation, please?
Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you once again for allowing us to come together, Lord, to be together to make decisions, Lord, to oversee the community, Lord, and we just ask that you continue to bless us, Lord, that you continue to bless the citizens, Lord, the healthcare workers, the essential workers, Lord, all of our police and our fire personnel, Lord. We just thank you so much for the blessings that you put over this community, Lord, that we have done so well, Lord, and we thank you for all of that, for the great leadership and the great oversight, Lord, and just the care and concern that we put into that everyone. Lord, we ask that you continue to look over and guide us to know the right ways to go, the best decisions to make. As we open back up, Lord, and we start to bring you back together, Lord, continue to put a hedge of protection around us and just help us to do it in the smartest, safest, Lord, and the most efficient way that's best for us. We ask these things in His name and sake.
Amen. Lieutenant Grody, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council, at this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda as it's presented this Tuesday, May 19th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Now requesting a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session meeting of February 4th, 2020, and the regularly scheduled council meeting of May 5th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion over either minute? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now I'm requesting a motion to approve the payroll and claims for the first half of May of 2020.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion over payroll and claims? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. At this time, we have slated on the agenda Janet Smith from the Northeast Missouri Humane Society and Leanne Welch from the Hannibal Veterinary Clinic. Please step forward. Yes. It's your all's time to shine.
Okay, well, I'm used to talking to animals, so
Well, you'll
I
fit
don't
right
know
in
how
here.
to respond if you all drool or need to go outside and go. My name's Janet Smith. I'm the director of the Northeast Missouri Humane Society. I am here to ask for an amendment to ordinance section 4-112 to allow for trap, neutering, and returning of feral cat colonies. I sent you all the last 4 years of feline intakes, and you can see that it's not changing any. And I have been awarded a grant for $2,000 from the Banfield Foundation, and would like to use it for revenue release.
One question I would ask.
Sure.
In order to receive the 2,000 grant, does the ordinance need the amendment
Well,
to support that, or
To be
how does
able
that
to
work?
do it,
Okay.
I was talking to Chief Davis, and Jennifer.
Mhm.
He told me that we would have to have ordinance amended so that cats could be returned back to the area from whence they came.
Okay,
Mayor, could I chime in?
absolutely.
Please.
Because I can probably shed some light, because probably some of that was something the chief and I came up with. The ordinance in question talks about prohibiting people from allowing cats to run at large, and that creates a nuisance. The chief had some concern that it might be construed against the Humane Society to say, well, if you're releasing them back into the public,
Yeah.
that's going to be a violation. I think it would be a simple tweak, but quite frankly, we didn't want to just do it on our own. We thought it would be best if the Humane Society explained to you what they wanted, and if that's something the council agrees we should do. It's a pretty simple draft for me. I know exactly I think I know exactly what we would need, and I could put something before you guys at the next council meeting if that's what you want. So.
That's what I wanted, a little discussion.
Yep,
to explain.
I figured. Well, and
not only for the people here, but those who are viewing this.
It probably wasn't fair to ask the Humane Society, because I'm the one that caused the problem in the first place, the chief and I looking at the ordinance. So
So you're the one.
I'm the one, me and the chief. So
So we would like the opportunity. We've been given some money. It's something that there are a bazillion grants out there to sustain the program. Just trapping and killing, like what we have been doing. There's something called the vacuum effect in the cat world. When you remove a colony of cats, then there'll be a new one that comes in to use the resources, take advantage of the resources that the other colony left. So by keeping them in their colonies, they will die naturally. And it eliminates a lot of the mating behaviors that the fighting, the marking, the roaming, and just people not wanting cats howling under their window at night. So I've spoken with Leanne, obviously, and General Vet to see if they would be agreeable to do this, and they said they would. Notch one of the ear, or I don't. They notch one of the, sorry. They notch an ear so that if it's caught again, we know that it's already been done.
See.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like what we're doing is working by the numbers. They're not going down any. And this is not a week, we're not going to see results in a month. It's over time, and I figure if we're doing it anyway, we might as well work to do something that's going to diminish the population instead of just, because they're out there, those mamas are having babies. They can have, a female can start reproducing age 4 to 6 months. Typically, they have 3 litters a year, on the average 4 cats. So, that's a lot of cats. Projected, one female cat in the lifespan of 15 years can have 180. So I'm just asking that we're allowed to try something different at no cost to the city, to try to alleviate this, and it's a worldwide problem or nationwide problem. But
Mayor, if I may.
Please.
I'd ask for some numbers from other communities of what you provided. Thank you. They were looking at reductions of 55, 41, 36, up to 95% in some of the communities. So I guess, and I have had complaints in my ward about having cats in the yards that weren't theirs. So you're looking at a $2,000 grant. I guess my question would be, how many animals would that take care of?
well,
And then you're saying that that you think that there are other grants available after that 2,000 runs out?
Yeah, HSUS, ASPCA, there's a lot of grants out there.
Okay.
And we open ourselves up to it by being able to say, yes, we trap, neuter, and return.
Well, I'll tell on myself, I lived in an apartment years ago on North 7th Street, and I got tired of walking through the cat crap to my door, and I put out a trap, and in 2 days, I caught 13.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
And we don't want to, this is something new that we're doing, trying possibly, and the community's hopefully, you guys are going to let us. We're not going to go out and trap, hundreds and thousands of cats the first month. We're going to do it slow. We're, take one colony on at a time. And from people that have contacted us and are okay with the cats being there. They don't mind them coming back, but the behaviors and then the continued litters, the breeding won't be a problem.
will you be doing the actual trapping, or will you be working with our animal control officers?
Animal control.
Okay, I saw them there, so I thought they probably had a,
I told
had
them
a
I was
hand in
bringing
it.
donuts.
So animal control will be responsible for setting out and collecting the traps?
What do you do if you've caught the same cat that has their ear nipped 10 times?
We just let them. And if we keep catching cats that have already been done, then that kind of says, the colony is not that big.
I mean, if you keep catching them, they must be a nuisance if somebody has to go out there and trap them.
Well, they are. I mean, they're nuisance. They're community cats
Right.
is what the new buzzword is for them. But they, by fixing them, that the colony will eventually die out by attrition, by getting run over by a dog or whatever. I don't want to say the other means that they meet their maker, but and it does from the things I have been reading, and I've been reading a lot on it. The behaviors are minimalized. The cat fights, the spraying, roaming, and so that they have a little more peaceful coexistence with the
if they were to get into fights or
One more question comes to mind. Do you have an estimate of how many feral cats that you're looking at in our community?
I don't. I've been the director for 3.5 years, and
you do know.
I do know where they are.
And
Okay.
she's
Some
got a
of them.
good start on where things are and people are okay with them.
Okay.
Right.
Well, a long time ago, I was involved with some of the good people that I think some of them are still here today in the animal control side at the police department. And so I'm not going to pretend I know what's going on today, but Chief, can you shed any light on the issue we're having with the feral cats? Is there You're going to have to come forward because we're not capturing everything. I'm sorry. It's taken me a while to get used to this new world of presentation.
So it was a few months ago that we met with Janet, actually, and she came to us with this idea of doing the trap neuter return program. And just to reiterate, like Chief had said, what we like to see is to operate on numbers to show that it actually works, especially if we're going to get behind its program. So I reached out to several locations in Illinois, like DeKalb, Collinsville, Belleville. They were unable to provide actual statistics of how well their programs that they had there were working, but I don't know the scale either of how big it was that they were trying to do things with. So, and over in Illinois, they're called animal wardens or something along those lines. But they weren't really helpful because they didn't really have anything to provide. So with that being said, I did talk to the Missouri Department of Agriculture and ask them what their thoughts, feelings are, and so forth. And so as far as the ordinance goes, one of the things that they were explaining is that you also have to worry about, and this would be something more for Mr. Lemons when it comes to abandonment, because they don't want people to just abandon the animals and make sure they return. So that's just more of a verbiage in the ordinance to make sure that's written properly. And to hit on what Chief had said as well, is that we want to make sure that, again, a lot of people have great intentions, but the vets could be just inundated and the shelter could be inundated with, we caught this cat here, TNR, 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 TNR. So that's why we want to be very specific as far as what the ordinance would read to say that it is something that would be controlled by the shelter, by the Northeast Humane Shelter, not something that's controlled by us or something. We would just kind of oversee it to make sure that the laws are being followed, whether it's state laws or whatnot, to make sure that they're regulated there. Janet and I have had some discussions as far as the role of the CSOs. These guys are busy. Some of you in building commission really know how busy they are. And as far as that goes, I would prefer, not that this makes a difference, but as far as I would prefer that their role would be what they're already doing. When they have you won't catch these guys running down the street trying to catch a cat. Maybe a dog, but not a cat. And
You ever tried to catch a cat?
No.
We caught dozens of them.
So it would be on a complaint basis. That's how we track them anyway. And so my understanding is that, and my preference would be obviously just to let them go to the shelter as we normally would, and then the shelter could do the transporting to the vet and releasing them back to where they came from, because that does come with paperwork from our end on where they were captured and whatnot. So they would be completely informed on how to take them back as well. So I did talk also, not just with the enforcement side, I talked to some shelters as well. And one of the ones that I talked to that seemed to be the most successful is St. Charles County. And so St. Charles County had a huge problem. Now, over the past 10 years, they have been taking care of 50 cats a month. And they're seeing an actual decline in the amount of stray cats. Now, here's how this works for feral cats. So here's how this works for them. Is they set up, this is something you guys could work out with the logistics, provided it goes through. But the third Sunday of every month, by appointment only, it's not animal control that takes care of it. It's the community. Right, the community knows there's a problem. If they trap a cat, they set up an appointment. They will show up during that appointment. They will do those 50 cats that Sunday morning into early afternoon. The person that has the cat is responsible for taking care of it, meaning that they will take it back to their house where they trapped it. They take care of it for the next 24 hours and then they release it, which is an option that they could have. And again, it still kind of leaves us and the CSOs out of really trying to have to care or transport or whatnot with that. So again, that's more of a thing that Janet would work out, as far as how that would operate and how they would do it. However, Department of Agriculture did say, I'm kind of jumping back and forth, they did say there are a ton of grants out there for them. So that it could be something that could work, but you're looking at longevity, and you're also looking at, to sustain it, it would be something that couldn't just happen in a month or two. It would have to be something that they could. So in order to really see success of it, it would have to be a continuing thing, not just, well, we'll waive this for 3 months until the grant runs out and see what happens. So again, they do 50 cats a month, and all of their stuff is volunteer. So they don't have any involvement with the animal control. Everything is volunteer, nonprofit, and doesn't really involve the city at all, unless it's just the oversight of the ordinance and how they're running it. Make sure it's humanely done. So as far as, like I said, actual stats on the enforcement side, I can't give you those because no one has them. The closest I came to stats when I talked to St. Charles County, the lady's name was Katie Willis. If anybody wants to write that down, or feel free to call her. She's full of information. Very nice, very nice to talk to. But she said as far as what they were doing, and their biggest problem is trailer parks. So fortunately, we don't have a lot of those here anymore, but that was kind of one of their biggest problems. Any questions for me?
James, you got this all?
What's been articulated tonight is a little more complicated than what I had in mind.
You're
But
welcome.
regarding regulations and et cetera, and I don't know that, if you're asking my opinion, I don't know that I would recommend that you do all those things in your ordinances, because I don't know that we want to have control over this situation. My intent, based on what I had been told previously, was that we would just put an exception in that specific ordinance stating that this ordinance shall not be construed to interfere with any program for spay and release, which the Northeast Missouri Humane Society has. And that's a bit of a paraphrase, but that's in general probably what I was going to propose doing. If we're going to do all this other stuff, that's fine, but I do have a concern that perhaps we're overcomplicating for purposes of what the city ought to be doing.
Lieutenant, did you gather any model ordinances
So
in your investigation?
there are some available out there. I did not pull those off of the website, but St. Charles County does have some, and so does St. Charles City. They do have some available in the verbiage of their ordinances, basically when it comes to the TNR and or trap, neuter, and return. Basically what it sounds like to me and the people that I've talked to is basically controlling to make sure that the animals are treated humanely, and far as return to where they came from, like that type of stuff. It's not outlined to saying you will do this and then this step and then this step and then this step, because if you make an ordinance like that, it's bound to fail because somebody's going to not hit every single step along the way. So with that being said, there are some available out there. I'm more than happy to pull those for you guys if you'd like to see them.
To simplify things, could we go with something like James is suggesting? And I assume that you're open to work with the Humane Society with your animal control people?
No, absolutely. And again, we have a problem. Clearly, we have a problem, and euthanizing them is not taking care of it. They've addressed it. They've said, hey, we've got a problem. We're going to try to find a way to take care of it. But again, in my research and what I have found is that to really be successful in it, it is a program that you will have to carry out, not just for a grant of a few months and $2,000. It is a commitment to actually carry that out to see some type of effects. My biggest concern too is that again with my CSO involvement, because these guys are busy, they're very busy. Sometimes their numbers exceed what the officers are doing because they're running all the time. And my other concern too is that as far as like having the city try to foot the bill for anything, I'm going to be blunt about it. I think that's something that they should completely operate off of grants. Oh, sure. And I'm not saying that they don't, but I would just like to throw that out there as well, is that far as that side of it goes, as long as it's grant supported, then absolutely completely.
As soon as I find out it's okay, I'm off to another grant sites too. And I talked to several different groups that have done this. Again, no numbers, which I understand. One group, they had a standing appointment at the vets 2 days a week for the TNR. And, you know, this is all new to us, to you, to the community, and we want to take baby steps. You know, we want to start slow and make sure we're doing it right before we, you know, go balls.
Before you jump into the deep end of the pool.
Thank you.
Or
There
that.
you go.
You're good.
It's all good.
So I mean, just and looking at the numbers again, like I said, St. Charles, they were doing 600 cats a year, and we've only taken in 400 plus a year. So if we had St. Charles numbers, we would pretty much TNR every single cat that ever touched the shelter. So I don't think they have to do it on that scale. But knowing that, and I will more than happily, I work with Janet very well. During hours, after hours, we can spend hours on the phone. After business hours, yes, we have, talking and discussing things to make sure that everything is working well, because we work very closely with them. You know, we rely on them to take the animals that we bring. And we know that there is a problem, because sometimes they're like, we're really full on cats. What do you do? You know, so, you know, again, we would work with them. I would give her the resources and the people that I have talked to directly, just to see if maybe that would kind of help with them and how they would outline and set it up. But again, you know, if you need some more ordinances or some examples of that, I could take care of that as well too. So
I, at this time, would make a motion that we go with our city councilor's recommendation to modify the ordinance and bring it back to us next meeting. And that I assume that you work with Chief on that, so it's acceptable to the HPD as well.
Okay, there's a motion, a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
Can we just get for the record what happens to feral cats when intake at current time? And I just want to say that I strongly support this, but I also hope that it is something that can work well with the CSOs.
Oh, absolutely.
It's something that we're not going to inundate and really overload them, because the guys are working hard. They've got some big things going on right now that they're really hard on. I know how busy and stressed their time is. So I would really like to make sure that that part is communicated well on exactly what you'll expect out of the CSO, how we'll expect them.
As returning, and you know, that is something that we up. You know, we're alerted to the cat being in there. CSOs can't get it, and we'll keep it at the shelter until we can get it into the vet.
I'm curious, how many traps does the city own?
well, we just had, let's see, we got what?
Okay.
Right.
But as far as trapping in a day, you're limited to however many traps you have. But not to say that you couldn't catch multiple cats on any given day in that trap.
And it's,
Sure.
right,
Okay.
and it's not only cats that they end up trapping.
Oh, sure.
We're not going to TNR record.
Not yet. Not yet. There's a grant somewhere for that, though. There's a grant somewhere.
There's, okay, any other discussion? And then I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
James, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Melissa Cummins with the Mark Twain Museum.
my annual Music Under the Stars, except this year is quite a unique and different year for us. So I'm just asking for permission for Music Under the Stars to be held June through August. That would include the open consumption of alcohol. That would not be sold by the museum, other parties, and they are required to get a license to do that, and we provide them a letter allowing them to sell on the premises. So that's where, and we are going to strongly encourage social distancing. There will be a lot of guidelines that will be set this year that we haven't done in the past. Music Under the Stars, of course.
Mayor, if I-
Are there businesses that come by and sell other than the establishments already downtown? I mean, alcohol?
What we have done in the past few years, actually, this will be my 7th year, is it's split. This year will be 13 concerts, and what we have done in the past is half the concerts are beverages are provided by Main Street Wine Stop, and the other half of the beverages were provided by Cape Hollow West Winery. That doesn't necessarily mean that's locked into those two entities. Those are just the two that have always asked to be. And then nonprofit organizations and social organizations, as well as youth organizations, are invited to set up as a food vendor, provided they receive their food permit, and they get to keep proceeds from the sale.
I was on a Zoom meeting with some of the members of HHMC tonight, and they wanted to make sure that we had barricades at the top of Hill Street.
Yeah, I
And
had that on
that's
the
that's
request.
that's on there. That would provide more room for social distancing. And then part of this was subject to caterer's license. And I spoke with the head of the health department today. And right now, that's not possible. At the end of the month or the beginning of next month, the 1st of June, the governor's supposed to pass down the next phase. That may be included in that. What the health department would suggest at that point, if approved, is that it be limited to grab-and-go type, food. In other words, you couldn't stand there and wait for your tenderloin to get done or a sandwich to be made up. They're suggesting grab-and-go so that you don't have people, congregate.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I clarify something for you? As far as the caterer's permit that is mentioned, that is specific to the sale of alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah, that is,
Okay.
that's what the caterer's license is. The
Okay.
city and the state both have caterer's license that relate to the sale of alcohol.
So the food vendor itself would have to have a certificate from the health department to serve
Right.
there. And I guess that's what I'm talking about, that's not available
Yes,
yet.
not the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Chamber of Commerce actually is the organization that is asked to do the first concert, and McKinsey is aware that that will be under stipulation
Sure.
if they receive that temporary food permit.
Okay. And the health department did state that they would not be there to enforce social distancing. That would be up to the sponsor.
Correct. There'll be a lot of announcements and signage that will have to be posted.
Second.
What I'm looking for.
There you go.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Let us all be safe.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Sue Downing with the Loafers Car Club. Well,
I don't see her here. I did not hear from her, but if you'd like, I can present on her or the Loafers Car Club behalf.
Like you to do that, Angel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is an amendment to their original request. They had originally requested for their annual reunion cruise to be on September the 11th, which was a Friday, instead of the 12th, which is a Saturday. They're asking for the same, blocking off 5th Street at Broadway. Street Department will provide barricades. There are no conflicts. Tourism indicates that there's a quilt show September 11th and 12th, and Taste of Maine at Mark Twain Museum on September 12th. But beyond that, there shouldn't be any conflicts. So once we receive the certificate of insurance and hold harmless on file, I would recommend approval.
Motion to approve?
So motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. So let them-
I will. No.
Next item on the agenda is Karen Burdett, Finance Director.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to ask for a public hearing for the budget to be on June 16th at 6:45 prior to council meeting. I've given everybody a copy of the budget, proposed budget, and inside I have a table of contents that I've added. Didn't have that just printed, see what pages everything's on. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call about any of it. We will have our workshop then on June 3rd. So we'll have the workshop on June 3rd, the public hearing on June 16th. Then at that council meeting, we will have the first reading for the budget. And then our second and final reading is scheduled for July 7th. And so this is the latest that we can do it because there is a payroll that Thursday. So anyway, I'm asking for approval to set the public hearing at this.
Motion to set the public hearing?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is Andy Dorian, Director of Central Services. I'd like to have a couple of items.
Yep, good evening, Mayor, Council. We have our annual bid tabulations for all our aggregate and concrete. So let's go over this real quickly. We had a single bidder on all the aggregates, all rock, which was Central Stone. Our salt, we had two bids and they were very close. So we would like to go with approving both companies. We obviously would go with the low bid first, but if we get into a pinch with salt, it's nice to have a backup.
Sure.
Asphalt would be the same situation. Low bid is Diamond, but we'd like to go with both. We often use SAP and Diamond, depending on who's making asphalt at that same time. Cold patch would be Diamond. Liquid calcium is Calco. Let's get that mixed up. Flowable fill is Bly. Gasoline is Big River. And concrete, low bid was Bly, but once again, we'd like to accept both just in case we get backed up on projects. It's worked out very well in the past. So that is for your consideration.
Just one comment.
Yep.
You may run into some problems with Diamond this summer with the construction on Highway 57. May cause some delays for you.
Yeah, we're used to it with going with Frost or SAP in the past, especially this last year when they were doing big paving on the highways. You got to time that. I don't really like to time it when all the states run it, get backed up quite long. So that's just going to have to be scheduled coordination, but that's a great point.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the bids as Andy's presented?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Next, we have change order number 3 for the riverfront. Board of Public Works had made a change later in 2019 in regards to the electric portion of the project. The Board of Public Works is funding that portion. They wanted to raise some of the panels above flood level, the electric panels. And working with Klingers, that wasn't going to be, it's going to be so high, it was going to be not practical. You'd have to get through bucket trucks. So they came up with this option of a dive bell, traps air. Curious to see how it works. They say it works really well, but I've actually never seen one. And so the Board of Public Works met and decided that's the option they'd like to go with, Klingers. And so it would be a change order of $34,382 to go with those dive bells. And that is paid for by the Board of Public Works.
Okay, and I want to make it clear, this is something that essentially the city side or the Board of Public Works side has initiated. It's for a cost savings or manpower savings later down the road. It's not something that the contractor's actually adding on.
No, it
It's
is
something we're
it's something
making
that
an
the-
option.
Yeah, the Board of Public Works, if they didn't do this, the manual labor of having to disconnect every single time it floods
Right.
is significant. And those who are not aware, when Mr. Hark puts in that request to put those floodgates in, we don't have a lot of time. And with everything that's going on there now, we even have less time.
Right.
And so we've got a lot of things to move in a very short period of time. And so there's several other disconnects that have to happen too, with Steve Terry and Boat Club. And so this would have been
Just another-
labor intensive. And so
Okay.
those are the things, when you do a project of this scope, a lot of times this gets changed once you get into practicalities of it. And the Board of Public Works feels like, from a manpower standpoint, it'll save them in the long run.
Okay.
So
Andy, where would those be stored at, and how long do they take to install? Just curious.
not much time is what I've been told. They'd be stored at the Board of Public Works.
Okay.
And they would be brought down when they're bringing all their equipment down to do the disconnects.
Okay.
So
Okay, and that will be Resolution 226120 to follow, unless anyone else has questions for Andy. Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Next on the agenda is Edie Groutman, DPW Management Assistant.
Evening, Council, Mayor. First item I have on the agenda is we opened bids for the property at 240 South 6th Street on May 11th. Bids came in a little higher than what we expected it to. We actually went out for bid originally on this property back in December of last year. Came in high then as well. We kind of expected the bids to be anywhere between $30,000 and $35,000. We received two bids, one from Roberts Demolition in the amount of $58,000, and the second one in the amount of $47,210 from Don Martin Construction. Right now, we have approximately $55,000 left this in our budget for innovation, and we are currently taking down, or have taken down, 7 properties, and so basically that takes the rest of our budget for this year, so we have no money left to take down the property. So we're asking to reject the bid because we just need to take it down. So we'd like to bid it in the fall for next budget.
Motion, we reject the bid.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And my next item, I'm actually going to ask that we table it at this time until further notice. We've kind of run into a couple of snags and just bring it back at a later date.
I'd rather you do that than get into a snag after we've already approved it, so thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
all so much.
Trying to do a motion and
One
second to
motion.
table. To table.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
I was unsure on that motion since it was a resolution.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we got changed too.
That's why we have our high-powered attorney with us. Yes. You like that, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right. Before us now is resolution number 2261-20. I need a motion to have the clerk read this resolution and call the roll for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Resolution number 2261-20, a resolution of the City of Hannibal authorizing the mayor to execute a $34,382 increase, change order number 3, for the Hannibal Riverfront renovation project. Mayor Hark,
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Veach. McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson,
I was going to ask to read it again, but yes.
Councilmember Cogdell.
Yes.
I declare resolution number 2261-20 duly approved and adopted on this day. Right, and that one's tabled, so at this time, I'd ask for a motion to go into closed session in accordance with RSMO 610-021, subparagraph 2. Admitting.
Second.
Who are you going to do?
Let's see, myself, city council, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and Andy Dorian, director of central services. Now do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.